Yeah, so I think when I want to ask you if you also see it this way. So when you look at the religious traditions, anyway, that the mainstream Buddhist ideas of non-self and negation and renunciation may not be as commonly shared by other religious traditions as more subtle, advanced philosophical topics like Buddha nature. And you find many concepts across all religions which are very much similar to Buddha nature, talking about the ground, the perennial philosophy. So
Right.
while
Mm-hmm.
this may be a very good unifying force for religions,
Mm-hmm.
or at least one Buddhist concept that doesn't really go directly against other religious traditions in a very drastic way, like
Yes, I think so. I think that you know, we do have the expression in the Ratnakotra Vibhaga. You find the expression of Dagmepe, Dani Chimbo type of thing, or
yes.
Nairatmya Parama Atma.
Mm,
You find that Parama Atma expression, for example, in dealing in the dialoguing with Hindus. Vedantin, for example, they have their Parama Atma idea from the Upanishads, and but we have the expression in the writings of Asanga and Maitreya and so forth, and even in the tantras we have the Nairatmya Paramatma, the supreme self of selflessness. And so there's a way of understanding that is really not in conflict, or even the idea of the soul. For example, there's another phenomenon in what Tibet's gift, the great gift of Tibetan Buddhism to world Buddhism as well as the world. I think one of the great gifts is the um, more wide spread of tantric, what was previously esoteric knowledge, and the sharing of tantric wisdom with the world, sort of not totally formally, in other words, for initiation and high level, sort of cultic practice. Not There's no intention to make that widely popular, but as a blessing, or with a sort of general notion of what it is, that there is this idea of the Mishikpi Tigle, that the Tantra's beautiful, what I call tantric Abhidharma. We don't have that expression in Tibetan, but Sangagi Gumbidzu sort of in Tibetan we don't say that. But in a way, what the many shastras in the Tenyor on Tantra, which are not the root Tantras, but the shastras of Tantra, they are like Abhidharma. Mahayana stopped calling Abhidharma out of respect to the Savira, Theravada, etc. The 18 different schools of the monastic Buddhism. So they stopped using the word like Abhidharma, so to leave it for their Abhidharma. But still, except Asanga wrote the one Mahayana Abhidharma. But so we don't really use Mahayana Abhidharma that much. And then Sangagi, Ngumbitsu, is a strange expression in Tibetan language, or even in Sanskrit. But it is what that is, actually. In other words, it's the scientific organization of the theories and the science and the experiences and the methodologies of the esoteric advanced meditations. And I think it's very fascinating how it interfaces with neuroscience, personally. The idea of subtle body, chakra system, Zalung Tigle, etc. And I think that's a dialogue that is unstoppable now, because the cat is out of the bag, so to speak. And the danger of it, for some people, there might be some danger in that. But really, I think the only danger has to do with someone who's never had a kind of experience of the resilience or transformability of the self without even any religious idea. Modern people, because of the flood of information, because of the pluralism of the societies and the ideologies, they do have a kind of more split personality problem than they used to have, which in one way they always moan about. Some of them more conservative ones get all upset about it. But on the other hand, it's also a kind of experience of the transformability and the changeability of the self, that a strong self is resilient to change rather than is a fixed thing. So therefore, if they already have some erosion of the fixed self ideologies in the modern period, the danger of the, Lai Ngarje, the self-identity as a Buddha in the esoteric is much less, I think. You have less danger of them becoming megalomaniacs. It's still a danger, but I consider that the main danger about Tantra is the idea of adopting a new rigidity of the self based on sort of high initiation or some self-image of oneself as a Buddha. And then one becomes a fanatic, But everybody's so shattered in their sense of self in most modern societies already that it's less of a danger, I think, one. And two, then the big danger of Madhyamaka that Nagarjuna warns us about has to do with the danger of people misunderstanding emptiness as nihilism, as nothingness. And that's not a danger anymore because everybody's already bitten by the snake of nihilism, because none of them believe in future life. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in soul already. So they're already bitten by the snake of a misunderstood emptiness, you could say, or existentialism, as you know very well. So that's not a danger either. So somehow our advanced things that were previously advanced, I think I'm responding to your question in that sense, things that were previously very, very kept very, if not completely esoteric, at least hidden for the advanced people. Like your illiterate farmer, you wouldn't have been talking to them about Dagmepa, Dagmenyi, because they're out there, you talk about Jimba, Tsutrim, Tsopa, La Sopa. You don't talk about Dagme, shut up, selflessness, And so that's almost esoteric for the mass in an agricultural society. But in an overeducated, nihilistic, materialistic society, they're already ruined from a spiritual point of view, in the sense of no future life, and life is meaningless, and you just get what you can in life and grab it, and then you die and you're nothing, and if you were bad, you have no consequence, etc. That's the general belief already. So shunyata now becomes like a good antidote for nihilism, actually. And I think we have a responsibility to try to share it more widely. So anyway, I don't know if that answers the question, but those are my thoughts on those topics. And therefore, coming back to Buddha nature, that's right. So then, as you know, in like Dzogchen or this type of Mahamudra teachings, and in Tantra philosophy, the idea of the Mishik Bitigle and this kind of soul theory ideas as a practical relational process of dealing with the rebirth, dealing with entering the clear light and the Book of the Dead type of thing. This is already out there, and I think therefore this will be helpful to people. And whether they are thinking, "Oh, this is my soul," and where the clear light is God, this touches within Sufism, within Christian mysticism, within Judaic mysticism, within Hindu mysticism, Vedanta. It touches on their idea of the potential, experience of the divine in the human being, by the human being. And at least most of them have theories like there's a spark of the divine intelligence in the human being. And in the old days, they might have thought of that as a fixated soul. That's like a fixed, rigid identity. And that would have been considered from Buddhist psychology a weakness and a problem for them. But nowadays, they can be pushed more toward the mystical direction by learning about Buddha nature, I think. And at least even if they misunderstand a little bit at first, as thinking of it as a fixed soul, in any way, it allows them to have a kind of sense of fellowship with Buddhism. And at least they won't think that Buddhism is sort of denying them their soul essence or something like that, And I was really delighted. I was starting a little bit to use the word for the what I call the Shintutama gyu, Semki Gyun, Shintutama Gyun, so I was beginning to use soul process for that, SOUL, soul. And then one time in a lecture of His Holiness in the late 80s, I think in the 90s, He said one time, oh, I think we can use that word. Why not? He was saying, because the old-fashioned translators of Buddhism would really get freaked out if you used the word soul, because they were taking Atma as soul. And so Buddhism had to be soulless. And then once you say it's soulless, then the modern religious person thinks of it as nihilistic or materialistic. And then that's the old cliche stereotype about Buddhism, that everything doesn't exist. So the Buddha nature, I'm delighted you are doing this series of conversations on Buddha nature, and Zata is making a big fuss about it, because I think it's very helpful. Its reception will be very helpful, even on a more simple level in the world.